4. Organization.
Do you have a gardening problem? We can help you with that. A program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make that grass look a little bit greener, as well as preserving what you grow. We're here to help you with your gardening problem. You're tuned in to Garden Talk Radio.
You are listening to the most informational-packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on the program. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size to fit your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Thank you for taking time out of your day and joining us on the program to talk gardening for the next hour. Whether you're listening to us on a radio app, through your radio on one of the 16 stations that we are broadcasting our show on in 2020, or through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com tab at the top of the page. That's our website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Season 4 tab at the top of the page. Podcast replay or in-studio video replay. Thank you. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is all about you, for you, to help your garden grow better, to have healthier trees, to maintain your landscape, make your yard look better, indoors and out, preserving what you grow as well. You can get a hold of us anytime on the program, during, before, and after, anytime you want. You can send us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. If you have Twitter, you can send us a tweet at TWVG Show, or use hashtag TWVG. You can follow us on our Facebook page, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, or you can jam your fingers in the phone and give us a call anytime, 24/7. If we can't get you on the program, we'll certainly give you a call back and answer the question which you have been pondering. You can do that at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW. We've got a big show lined up for you, as we do each week. We're going to talk in the first segment about 7 perennial flowers that you may want to incorporate into your landscape. As well as in the second segment, we're going to go over 8 heat-proof spinach substitutes for those of you who enjoy spinach, but it goes to bolt very quickly, and maybe you're in a warmer climate where it just doesn't grow at all. Also, author of the Straw Bale Garden Book, Joel Karsten, will be with us, and we'll hammer through as many of your garden questions as we can get through in the program. Well, let's get into our first segment, which is 7 perennial flowers that you should incorporate or may want to incorporate into your landscape. Now, first of all, Holly, what is a perennial versus an annual? We hear these terms all the time.
So a perennial is a plant. It can be a flower. It can be just a nice looking plant. It can be vegetables or perennial vegetables, perennial fruits. So the most common thing you might think of when it comes to perennials is a lot of times is flowers. Like if you go to the garden center or at a big box store that has a garden center, you might see perennials blocked off and you'll see like flowering plants or decorative plants. But there are perennial vegetables, and then a perennial fruit would be something like a berry bush, or strawberries, or fruit trees, or fruit bushes, what have you. So a perennial is something that comes back year after year. You plant it, it's going to come back. You might have to do some treatment to it in the spring or fall, and then that's it.
In some instances, you don't have to do anything to it. They'll just come back naturally. And let's go over some of these perennial flowers in which we would encourage, maybe you should take a look at potentially planting these into your landscape. Now, these can all be planted in different forms or fashion, from root stock to seed to transplant. So based on what type and the situation that you're in, depends on which works best for you.
Yeah, some of them might need full shade, partial shade, full sun. Not full shade, but partial shade would be okay. And partial shade means anywhere from when you're in the peak of summer, from about six-ish hours or so.
Right. So
not less.
Let's go with the first one here, Black Eye Susan.
So you can grow this in zones 3 to 11. It blooms in summer to fall. It's kind of like a black middle. It's a flower that looks kind of like a daisy almost, but with a black middle and then yellow petals. And, they grow 1 to 2 feet tall. They kind of spread out a little bit, but it's mostly just one main plant.
Colors range from yellow to orange, and they are more adaptable to attract hummingbirds to your landscape. So that's something, if you're interested in that type of nature, that would be good. Next one is coneflowers.
So coneflowers prefer full sun. They attract birds and bees, especially hummingbirds, because of their shape. So this is for zones 3 to 9, so not quite as expansive. These get 1.5 to 5 feet, so you have to keep that in mind. Some of these perennials are going to be low to the ground. Some of them are going to be taller, and they come in pink, red, and purple.
The coneflower will bloom. You got some versatility here, midsummer to early fall. So not that big of a range as some of these other ones. Now, the one that everybody's probably thinking about that is going to be a very universal one is daylily.
Yeah, so daylilies are very, very common. They do like the full sun, and they bloom in anywhere from late spring to fall, so they have quite an expansive season. Those are zones 3 to 9. They go anywhere from 1/2 foot to 3 feet. They attract butterflies. There's red, orange, pink, purple, green, white in the daylilies, and yeah,
they can get quite expansive. They can get very large if you're not maintaining them. We've got them around the house, the studio, at the big garden. So if you're not careful, they can get pretty good size on you.
Mm-hmm. But people like them because they do add a nice touch to your landscape. And if you keep deadheading them, so if you keep taking those dead flowers off, those dead blooms, they're going to produce more.
Let's go with the next one on our list here.
The peony. So peonies are kind of a fluffy-looking flower.
A shrub bush is what it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they have a very distinct scent to them, so that's something to keep in mind. They prefer full sun. A lot of times you'll see these used in municipalities on boulevards and things like that because of the full sun. And, yeah, they're in zones 3 to 8. They get anywhere from 1 to 8 feet. I've never seen an 8-foot peony.
I'm wondering if that is the diameter.
Oh, maybe.
Because some of these they very, very large, and they come in a variety of different colors, of shapes and colors. Blooms in the spring, kind of goes and fades out in the middle of the summer, in that kind of realm, based on the conditions.
Yeah, they attract birds. Apparently, I've seen them attract. A lot of different types of wildlife little insects will kind of live inside those petals.
The daylilies, butterflies, is the main attractive insect or animal for those. Mums is our next plant on the list.
That's, chrysanthemums or mums. Those are partial shade to full sun, and those bloom in midsummer to late fall. Zones 3 to 9, and those attract the butterflies and bees. There's all sorts of colors in mums. Red, pink, green, blue, white, orange are some. I think there's even some yellow mums too.
Yeah, there's a vast variety of different colors of mums in which you can get for your landscape.
And then there are asters. I don't know much about asters. I know that they are commonly grown. I haven't seen a lot of them, or maybe I don't realize it. They're partial shade to full sun, and those bloom in the late spring to early fall, so they're a long bloomer as well. And
zone 4 to 8, so we're narrowing down that gap a little bit for these particular for these, unlike the other ones that are a little more versatile across the country.
Yeah, and those attract bees, butterflies, hummingbirds. A lot of these perennials are going to attract pollinators. It's a common thing for them to attract pollinators. So if you feel like you don't have enough pollinators in your garden, you could consider growing some of these perennials.
And you don't have to replant them each year.
That's the nice part, is that if you want to, we've had people on the show who say, like, I'm a lazy gardener, and it's not necessarily being lazy if you use a lot of perennials. I think to some extent it's being smart and efficient, but some do require care. So if you're like, I really like this plant, but
deadheading, cutting back at the end of the year, that type of thing.
You have to do some of that care. But yeah, perennials are definitely nice. Next one, and that's Yeah, quarter foot to 4 foot for the asters. Bleeding-Heart, we had a Bleeding-Heart plant when I was growing up. And they live for a long time. They're cool little plants. They put on these little flowers that look like hearts, essentially. Now,
late spring to early summer, so the window is very short on those. But you can grow them in zone 3 to 9, and they get 1.5 to 4 foot tall. And they'll attract butterflies and hummingbirds to your landscape on that. So it works out well on that if you're trying to get those type of insects and birds on your property.
Right. So those are the bleeding hearts, and we had ours up against a garage, and it would have been the east side of the garage, so it got morning sun, but not afternoon sun. So, yeah, you can put a lot of these, like, will be put against a house, by a house, near a house, whatever, or in the middle of your landscape.
And this is just 7 of dozens of dozens. I mean, we didn't even touch on roses and other ones that you can incorporate into your landscape for generations, essentially, as long as they've maintained themselves and as long as you maintain them and make them look pretty. And again, there may be some insect damage you have to take control of, deadheading, that type of thing. But a lot of times these plants, to a certain degree, will take care of themselves. It's not like a tomato where you're going to have to trim the bottom of the leaves and you're going to harvest it. A lot of these things will take care of themselves for more times than not.
Right. Did you take time? Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to our show. This is our 6th show of 2020. Did you miss last week's show? We talked about if the Victory Garden may or may not come back in 2020, and also how to grow okra anywhere, not just in the South. Our guest was new author and popular YouTuber Callie Kim. You can listen to that show by going to your favorite podcast platform and searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener podcast, or we will make it easy for you to find them. You just email us at gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put show 5, and we will send you the link. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. You were listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, help your trees grow better, make that grass look greener, and preserving what you grow for indoor and out.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
We here at the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardens understand that healthy soil is always the key to a successful garden. We know that chemical fertilizer burns carbon out of the soil and kills the microlife needed for a healthy soil ecosystem. No worries. Chicken Soup for the Soil by Dr. Jim's will stimulate life in the soil and supply all the nutrients most fertilizers neglect. Rather than force-feeding water-soluble chemical fertilizer, we suggest feeding the microbes a smorgasbord of 100% bioavailable nutrients that your plants can consume when they need them. Chicken Soup for the Soil is an amazing fertilizer that will increase the quality of all the fruits and vegetables you grow. Perfect for gardeners, growers, and farmers. To find out more about Chicken Soup for the Soil and other products, visit drjims.com. That's drjimz.com. Brought to you by Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardens, farms, landscaping, and more. Visit blueribbonorganics.com or call 262-497-8539 to find their products nearest you.
Protect your plants against damage with a 3-in-1 plant guard and special blend fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com.
Responsible watering, accurate, fast, and efficient. Earth conscious. Visit waterhoop.com.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
The new way to support your tomatoes, wrap it and snap it. Tomatosnaps.com. Seed Savers Exchange has been saving, preserving, and sharing heirloom seeds since 1975, and today continues to provide those seeds to gardeners just like you. With 600-plus varieties offered in this year's catalog and 18,000 listings on their exchange, their gardener-to-gardener seed swap, Seed Savers Exchange is keeping cherished seed varieties alive. Visit seedsavers.org to request a free catalog or to purchase seeds online for this year's growing season. That's seedsavers.org. Tree Ripe Citrus Company has top quality produce that comes right to your neighborhood with the freshest peaches and blueberries you'll find. To find locations, go to tree-ripe.com. Do not settle for the rest when you can have the best peaches and blueberries with Tree Ripe Citrus Company. Go to tree-ripe.com.
Blue Mel's Garden and Landscape Center offers an awesome selection of high-quality garden and landscape products. We have just the plants you're looking for: annuals, perennials, veggies, herbs, and more. Plus, you can always count on us to answer all of your questions and offer expert advice. Blue Mel's also carries the largest selection of bulk landscape materials in the area. Enjoy a beverage from our coffee shop while your kids run around in our huge playground. Join our growing list of highly satisfied customers. Visit the garden center that offers everything you're looking for. Visit Blue Mel's today.
Blue Mel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Power Planter Earth Augers, Ivy Organics, Root Maker, Pomona Universal Pectin, Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Pro Plugger, Tomato Snaps, World's Coolest Floating Rain Gauge. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit PowerPlanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, sliding through another program. Welcome back. We're going to be talking about 8 heat-proof spinach substitutes. Many of us grow spinach each year, but we have the problem where very early on in the season, things are good and we get a warm spell and things go haywire and the spinach begins to bolt as the day length gets longer as well. So we're going to talk about several substitutes. Now, when I say substitute, it's just like in school. The substitute is not nearly as good as the main teacher, okay? So these substitutes are not nearly as good as spinach. However, they are a close second and third and fourth, however you want to go about doing it, with the spinach itself. Now, there are some more tolerable spinaches that are good for climates that are warmer than spinach is accustomed to grow in. So that's something to look at. Now, typically, you want to plant your spinach about 4 to 6 weeks before your last spring frost. Begin sowing that spinach every 1 to 2 weeks so you can have a succession. And then 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost in the autumn is a good time to begin sowing that spinach variety in which you like and getting some in the fall as well. So you get 2 crops in the year. So long-standing, there's hybrid varieties that are more tolerable to the heat, and there's some open-pollinated varieties that are good heat-tolerable spinaches that you can save the seeds on. The hybrids you don't want to save the seeds on. So let's go over some of these spinach substitutes that you may be able to sneak into your family's meals, and they would not know that it wasn't true spinach.
I don't think a lot of people are dying to have spinach anyway, when, sometimes if you have younger children, but that's okay.
I like fresh spinach.
I like spinach
okay.
too, but I'm just saying, I don't know if you have to necessarily sneak it in. I don't think anybody's like, oh, we don't have spinach, and maybe they can try something new. So Swiss chard comes in a number of varieties. It's actually related to the beet. If you ever grow Swiss chard, you'll see it looks a lot like the seed, looks a lot like beets. But it's a nice leafy vegetable. And I think it holds up a little bit better than spinach when it comes to cooking.
It's more of a thicker leaf.
It's a thicker leaf, yeah. I think it just has a little bit more of a structure to the leaf, if anything. But it's not like a bad thickness. It's not like you have to chew more like an oak leaf versus a maple leaf. It just has a little bit more structure to it.
And when we talk about, we're not talking about the stem. There is what you mentioned. There's yellow, there's burgundy, there's white stemmed Swiss chard. Some people believe that certain colors grow quicker than the others. We plant a smorgasbord of the Swiss chard in there's clusters of it, and it works very well. A side note, while we're talking about Swiss chard, something additionally you can do that you can't do with spinach is you can make Swiss chard cheese burritos. You can do that on the grill, you can do that on the stove, you can do that in the microwave. What is that for people who are not familiar with the procedure of what that is?
You take your leaf of your Swiss chard. You want to use a nice size leaf for this. And what you do is you take that leaf. In the middle of the leaf, you just sprinkle some. You can use shredded cheese or just some thinly sliced cheese. And you roll it up. You put a toothpick through it, and you can grill it or just kind of cook it over a pan real quick. It melts fast, and it kind of wilts the Swiss chard a little bit in a good way. And then it makes a nice little appetizer.
Yeah, if your center stem is too thick, you want to remove that and then use the side leaf structure. But yeah, cheese burrito, you can use whatever you want for that. Another thing is a substitute for spinach is beet greens.
Now, yeah, you can use beet greens. To me, they taste a little bit more earthier than a Swiss chard or spinach.
This is more of when they're middle to baby to
more
mid.
Like tender.
Yeah, not
tender.
like at harvest time. Let's try to utilize the whole plant. Yeah, but yeah, it is a thicker leaf, and it doesn't have that same characteristic flavor, I guess, is what would be palatable flavor.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the beet greens. None of this stuff tastes exactly like spinach or anything, but it is a nice green.
I think Swiss chard is probably the closest. Anything you can do with spinach, you can do with Swiss chard across the board. These other ones are a little more intertwined.
Greens.
Yeah,
I don't think it really. Yeah, I think you're just going for something that looks the same or feels the same, whatever. So kale is very popular among a lot of people. It's a leafy green. There's different varieties of kale. There's red kales. There's ornamental kales. There's regular kales. There's dinosaur.
Now,
kales.
can you eat an ornamental kale?
I think you can.
Yeah, and just because a vegetable or a fruit or whatever says it's ornamental doesn't mean it's not able to be consumed. They're all safe to eat. It's just the society or the nurseries or whatever you want to call it tricks you into thinking, oh, it's ornamental, can't be consumed. It certainly can be.
So kale is a very hardy plant. So your spinach, if you plant it, say in the fall, it's going to die off after a frost. Kale will live through a frost and sometimes get sweeter.
And through a freeze in some instances. Mm-hmm. But you have some very different varieties. You have Russian red kale, you've got scarlet kale, you've got curly kale, you've got dinosaur kale. You've got a lot of different selections when it comes to the type of kale in which you want to grow. Then you have New Zealand spinach, which is an actual spinach, and it can handle the heat. However, it's not quite like spinach, especially whenever it gets mature, it can get more bitter to a certain degree. So, you can always get that. You can transplant. You can start it 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date because it is not frost tolerable like spinach, regular spinach is. Regular spinach can't handle a hard freeze. It's a little frost tolerable, but this New Zealand spinach is not tolerable of frost at all. It'll kill it. So you want to wait until the frost is over and then plant it. At a young plant, it's very good, but it gets bitter whenever it gets mature. But it can kind of shrub up a little bit. So keep that in mind when it comes to selecting New Zealand spinach.
So then there's also your typical greens like collard greens or turnip greens or even mustard greens. Those are good alternatives. I don't know if you necessarily eat those raw. I know they're typically cooked. So that's one thing that's different about not people will eat spinach raw. Greens are typically cooked and cooked down, and then there's some sort of flavor added to them to help give them some richness.
Now, Malabar spinach, it's a fast-growing, heat-loving vine, including there's 2 different species of it. Typically, it's it'll come back a year. It'll grow in over the years. And zone 7B through 11, it has a red stem and green leaves. It's out of it's a good one, and you can grow it anywhere in the country, but in those warmer climates, it will last longer and grow almost year round with no frost or freeze. So that's another thing that you can consider. Just because it's not traditional green little plant spinach like we're accustomed to, doesn't mean that other spinaches are not substitutes that are very similar at a certain growth period of the plant's life. Watercress, delicious. It does have a peppery greenish green to it. Pepperish. It's a pepperish green.
Not like super spicy or anything. It just has a little bit of a sharp taste, I guess. Yeah, kind of a peppery taste, like more like a black pepper versus a hot pepper.
Yeah. Dandelion greens. Now, this is something that I would disagree with, because dandelion greens can be very bitter. You can't just eat them very, very strong. You can't eat them raw. They're very bitter. So you need to cut them with something.
Yeah, so you can cut them with something. If you have not a lot of spinach, you could add some dandelion greens, or just any sort of lettuce would suffice as well. Even most of the time when dandelion greens are around, you wouldn't have kale to eat, so you'd have to think about something else that's seasonal. So that would be maybe something like the lettuce. So whether you do like leaf lettuce, which grows pretty quickly, that's something you could combine with those dandelion greens.
And dandelions, based on the studies and the research in which you do, there's many different and many beneficial properties in which dandelions can be utilized for your body, from the leaves to the flower to the roots. There's over 300 varieties of dandelions in the world. So there's a little trivia for you. Broccoli rabe is another one that you can use as a substitute. It's a healthier, it's a bitter green to a certain degree when it comes to...
It's also called rapini. It's used in a lot of Italian cooking. It doesn't really look like broccoli or anything like that. It's actually a green. It's closer to the turnip than it is broccoli. It's still in the Brassica-ish family. But yeah, a lot of times you'll find it cooked down in Italian food and not realize that you're even having broccoli rabe. But yeah, it's there.
Now, another one that you can utilize as a substitute for spinach is a wild edible entitled lamb's quarter or goosefoot. Native Americans have utilized this particular plant for thousands of years. And you want to get this plant, you want to properly identify any wild edible in which you're going to consume. And you'd want to get this at a young stage. As the plant matures, the leaves get very tough and difficult to consume. But it is called lamb's quarter, or another name is goosefoot. And once you are able to identify it, it's very easy to pick them out of a fence row that's not been sprayed or treated with anything, or even in your yard or your garden. We used to have lamb's quarter quite frequently in our garden, and we were able to work it out of the garden. So there's just a number of substitutes that you can utilize for spinach if you're unable to get spinach to grow, or you've ran out of spinach and the summertime is upon you, and you still want to have something that's very similar to spinach, but you can't have spinach growing outside because it will go to bolt due to the heat and the daylight requirements of it.
Well, soon it will be warming up, or maybe it is warming up by you, and you want to make sure you can enjoy your yard without sharing it with beetles and grubs.
With spring just around the corner and knocking on our door, it's time to start thinking about controlling beetles and grubs in your garden and your yard and your property. Grub Gone can be applied to turf or your garden around ornamentals to control grubs and lessen their impact that beetles have on your yard this summer. Easy to use, apply with a commercial spreader or irrigate into your soil.
Biologically, it specifically targets grub and beetle invaders without harming beneficials such as ladybugs, bees, and butterflies. And it's the only non-chemical that works. Go to phyllombioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com.
We'll be right back with author of the Strawbell Garden Book, Joel Karsten. You're listening to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, a program dedicated to help you grow a better garden, maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow indoors and out.
You can bet the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardeners phone lines are always jammed during the show. So Joey and Holly keep their phone lines open 24/7 to help you. Call anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-7469. Or just remember 1-800-927-SHOW. SHOW. Leave a message and they will call you back.
Planting conditions are always favorable with the Power Planter Earth Auger. No matter what the job is, Power Planter has the right size for you. Simply attach to a drill and let the Power Planter do the work for you, creating holes fast and efficiently with ease. Find the size that fits your project at powerplanter.com.
Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com.
World's coolest raingauge.com. Need I say more?
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com.
The number one key to healthy, productive plants are the roots. Starting from seed to full-grown plants, rootmaker.com has the answer. From seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots, creating a fabulous root system, never again will you have root-bound plants. To multiple gallon grow bag sizes to raised beds, rootmaker.com has your grow needs covered. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code TWVG at checkout and get 10% off your entire order. The Simply Solar Greenhouse is a one-piece molded fiberglass greenhouse that is easy to install and maintain. Multiple sizes available. Check them all out at migreenhouse.com.
Trim Bin turns any chair into a workstation. Comfortably sort your herbs, dried flowers, cannabis, and more. Easily collect pollen with a static brush and mirror finish collection tray. High walls keep your work contained. To get yours, visit harvest-more.com. Made in California.
Dreaming of a lush green lawn and abundant garden? Not sure what products you need? Check with Chapin. From sprayers to spreaders to fertilizer injectors and greener gardening options, Chapin offers the products you need to weed and feed your lawn and garden. Feed your plants every time you water with Chapin's Hydro Feed Fertilizer Injector. Weed a greener way with Chapin's Horticultural Vinegar Sprayer. Check with Chapin. Visit www.chapinmfg.com. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Neptune Harvest, Happy Leaf LED, DripWorks, We Grow Indoors, Deer Defeat, Harvest More, Blue Ribbon Organics, Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center, Chip Drop. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Blue Mills Landscape and Garden Center is the place for all of your bulk material. Now, they are open, and they have strategic and specific information and instructions on if you go pick up bulk material. They will deliver. They've got 40 varieties to pick from sand to gravel to rocks to sod to compost to raised bed mix and everything in between. So check with their website, bluemills.com, or you can give them a call at 414-282-4220 to see what the rules and regulations are on the delivery and the pickup. They are located at 4930 West Loomis Road, just off of Layton, in Greenfield. Again, give them a call at 414-282-4220.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in the inventor of the straw bale gardening method. We're going to go to the land of 10,000 lakes. We're going to head up to Minnesota.
Well, Joel Karsten is the author and inventor of the straw bale garden method. He's published a number of books now in many different languages, and it's been distributed into a lot of countries, and many people now follow the straw bale garden method. Thank you for coming on the show today, Joel.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. Hey, Holly. Hey, Joey.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know that you've been doing the rounds on radio in Canada and America here, instructing and teaching people how to, and the reasons why somebody may want to look at growing in straw bales.
Yeah, the amazing thing is not everybody knows about straw bale gardening yet. You know, I speak to groups and audiences and whatnot, and I still get, a good percentage of people that say, wow, I've never heard of this before. And you kind of bang yourself on the side of the head. I've been doing this now for 29 years. But I guess not everybody gets exposed to it all the time. So
and we always talk about you never know who's listening or watching you, and it's always interesting where and these people are at, and they're appreciative, how appreciative they are of you providing information to them. It makes a very big difference even to them. So we always like that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, we're on a bunch of stations across the country, some big farm areas that have a lot of straw bales that can be utilized. Let's get into how did you come up with the straw bale garden method? I know you said you've been doing this for about 29 years. Where did this baby start at?
Yeah, I grew up on a crop and dairy farm down in southwest Minnesota. And as a little kid on a dairy farm, you bale a lot of straw, a lot of hay. Every once in a while, you'd have a bale with a broken string. We'd throw it against the barn. And, of course, it would get rained on a couple of days later, so we'd just ignore it for the rest of the summer. And by the middle of the next summer, that bale had decomposed quite a bit, and the biggest, tallest, healthiest, greenest thistles on the whole farm were the ones that would grow out of these bales laying by the barn. And I would notice that even as a little kid. Now, we fast forward about 15 years from that point, and I graduate from the University of Minnesota. I get a degree in horticulture, and I buy a house. Well, it turns out this property that I bought had about 1 inch of topsoil. And, a normal gardener would build raised beds. That's what a normal vegetable gardener in that situation would do. But I had a problem. I had just graduated college, and I had just bought my first house, so I didn't have the money to build raised beds. But I did remember these bales that used to lay by the barn. And I thought, if thistles grow so well, then peppers and tomatoes should grow pretty well too. So I started some experimenting. And one thing led to another, and I sort of perfected this methodology for how to make it work. It took a few years. I always joke that for the first 14 years, nobody cared except me and my family and a few friends and neighbors and colleagues, and that was about it. And then 15 years ago, I got on TV, and that was the beginning of the explosion of straw bale gardening. So.
Well, and you got on a little paper on the East Coast called the New York Times that kind of puts you on the map, too.
Yeah, that was helpful. Yeah, that's for sure. You get a full page right up in the New York Times, and it's amazing what that does for you.
Well, I want to go back to the story whenever you and your dad was figuring this out. There was a point where your dad said, no more, we're not doing this, because there was so many people stopping by the house wanting to know what this was.
Exactly, yeah. He called me up one day, and he said, this was in August, end of the first season, and he said, your mom and I can't take this anymore. No more straw bale gardening. I said, well, what's wrong? I thought it was going so well. Tomatoes are coming in so good. He said, oh, it's great. But he said, when you got 8-foot-tall tomatoes coming out of straw bales in your front yard in this neck of the woods, everybody who drives by pulls off and wants an explanation. And he said, it takes us a half an hour to explain everything. And he said, I'm not sure we're doing it justice anyway. So he said, you either got to build a fence in front of that garden, some wooden fence so nobody can see the garden, or you need to write all this information down, and then I'll just put a mailbox right by the garden and tell people to take a flyer instead of asking, ringing the doorbell and wanting information. So that's kind of how my first book got started. It was a 3-page flyer that turned eventually into a 65-page little how-to book that I first self-published. And then the publisher saw that, and then picked up the ball and ran with it. So.
Right, definitely very successful. Now, how is this method unique to regular ground gardening, or how is it also unique to methods like a container garden or even a raised bed?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, especially when you compare it with traditional gardening methods, there's a lot of advantages. The number one observable one is that you don't have to bend over as far. So that's one of the reasons raised bed gardeners do raised beds, is because of that. Another reason raised bed gardeners like raised beds is because the beds tend to warm up earlier than the soil does. Well, the great advantage we have with straw bale gardening is the inside of that bale. When we begin this process, we do what's called the conditioning process, and that's where we grow bacteria. And when those bacteria are growing in that bale for that first 2 weeks, those bales get really hot. Sometimes they'll get 130, 140 degrees inside that bale. And then they start to cool off a little bit at the end of the conditioning period, and then you're ready to plant. But when you're planting, you could be planting a tomato into a bale that's 80, 90, 95 degrees versus in the soil right next to the bale where it's only 55 degrees. So for warm season crops in particular, you get this big boost, this big jump start at the beginning of your season which tends to push the crop a little faster. You get earlier blossoms, you get earlier fruit, and you're the first one in the neighborhood with ripe tomatoes.
And that's a bragging point, yeah.
That's right. You won if that happens, right?
Well, let's talk about. There are a lot of things in which one can grow in a straw bale, but there are some things in which you advise people to avoid. What are some of those, and what are the reasons behind those particular crops that you say shy away from?
Right. I don't like to grow sweet corn in bales. It takes a whole bale to grow 3 stalks corn, and they're a little crowded even in one bale because they get such big roots, and they're so tall they tip over easily. So avoid doing that. And then perennial type crops like rhubarb and asparagus that come back from the same root every year. Because remember, within 3 years, there'll be nothing left of that bale but a little hump of soil in your garden, and that's about it. So they're going to completely decompose, and your asparagus would be growing up on top of a hump, and you don't want that. The other things I haven't had great luck with in my climate is onions have not done well. And I get people from down south that love the onions they grow in their straw bales. But up in the northern climate up here, I haven't had great luck with onions. Rosemary is one of the only herbs that doesn't love the straw bale garden. So rosemary doesn't do as well. And other crops like basil do amazingly well. So it kind of makes up for it. But and then I haven't had great luck with Brussels sprouts for some reason. I don't know what the reason could be for that, but I think they just don't seem to love the straw bales. So there's a few weird things, but overall, pretty much anything you would plant in a traditional soil garden in this part of the world is going to grow really well in a straw bale garden. And there's a few things you can plant that grow well in straw bales, but wouldn't grow very well in the soil. One of those being sweet potatoes. Tough to grow up this far north in Minnesota, but they do really well in the bales.
Well, for people who are listening to this and trying to get a visual, are we growing the product out of the side of the bale, the top of the bale? Where or how is that being?
All of the above.
Okay, all right.
I tell people it should look like the fleece on a sheep. When you get to the 1st of July, you shouldn't be able to see any straw anymore. So if you got some straw showing on the side, you can stick a basil plug right in the side of the bale. You can plug. I do lots of lettuces like kale and things. I'll stick plugs right in the side of the bale. And then, so you plant your normal stuff that you're going to do, especially if you're going to do seeds. You almost have to do those on the top of the bale. Peas and beans and carrots and radish and, kohlrabi and that kind of stuff I do from seed. And then if you do transplants, you got an option. You can plant them in the top of the bale, or you can plug them into the side. Now, if you plug them in the side, I want you to plant them really deep. So you need to make a hole in the side of that bale. What works really good for that is a shovel handle or a rake handle. Just shove that right between the 2 strings, nice and deep, kind of work it around a little bit, make a hole, and then get the root way down deep in that bale. So it gets moisture and it gets nutrients. Don't plant it on that outside crust, because the outside inch or two of that bale is going to be dry and it kind of creates a crust on the outside, so it's not going to get a lot of moisture. So push that plug way deep. Even if you bury some of the branches, that doesn't matter. That plug will come right out the side of the bale eventually. You can also do flowers if you want in the side of the bale. And if you don't like the look of the bales, you could fill it in with flowers if you like.
Well, let's talk about the type of bale. Now, can we predominantly do straw bale from wheat.
Right.
Is that the best, or can you do hay? Is there a bale type of material that is better than others? What have you found?
Well, I started out using straw because straw is a lot cheaper, less expensive than hay bales. But the truth of the matter is you can really use any organic material that you can find that decomposes quickly, because all organic material eventually decomposes and becomes soil. So we use straw because it's convenient and cheap and, it's accessible and it's already in these nice little bricks all with strings around it, so it's very convenient. But there's a lot of places in the world where we do straw bale gardening method, but we use other material like sugarcane stalks or rice straw or, even baled palm tree fronds, shredded palm tree fronds. You can shred them up real fine and you can bale that what's left, and that will decompose and become a media that your vegetables can grow in. So hay bales will work. If you got moldy hay bales or you found some inexpensive hay bales, that'll work. There's always a question of how many weed seeds are going to be in the bale, and we try to keep our straw bale gardens as weed-free as possible. It's one of the things I brag about is that you don't have to pull a lot of weeds. So if you use a hay bale and that hay is made from grass that wasn't harvested all summer, so those seed heads were all mature when you cut and baled that grass. Now you're going to get lots of sprouts out of that hay bale. But a lot of times hay is, the grass is cut 2-3 times a summer. Or if it's clover hay, it's cut at 1/10 flower. There's not going to be any mature seeds in there. The drawback of a hay bale is it has a lot of protein in it, which converts to nitrogen, but it decomposes really fast. So you really only get one season of growth. If you use a straw bale, you're very apt to get 2 years out of that bale. Sometimes you got to reconnoiter it the second year, kind of gather the bale together and wrap it with some chicken wire. But the second year bales are great for root crops like potatoes and carrots, beets, that kind of stuff in your second year bales, or a cool season crops too. You got to remember that the warm season crops love that warmth from the decomposition, but the second year you don't get that same warmth in the bale. The bale's already decomposed on the inside, so you just basically plant.
No reconditioning required on that second year at all.
Yeah, you might add a little nitrogen just to refresh it a little bit. If you're using organic, just a little cup of blood meal or 2 cups of blood meal on top of a bale and water it in. Or if you're using lawn fertilizer, just a cup of 3/4 of a cup of lawn fertilizer on top and a little water and refresh the nitrogen, because nitrogen will leach out. It's a soluble nutrient. So it gets rained on all winter and snowed on, and then the snow melts and it carries a lot of that nitrogen out. So just freshen that up a little bit and then go ahead and plant.
Now, for people who are not in farm country who are listening to the program, where is a good place to find straw bales? I know you've been to all corners of the earth, and there's places where there's not mechanical balers where they physically have to cram it into a box and then tie it off.
They can make their own.
Yeah. Where's the best place that you would suggest somebody would start looking for bales?
Well, start at your garden center. A lot of times a garden center, if you're just going to do a couple bales, you can pay a little bit more markup and get it direct from a garden center. If you go on the Craigslist or the Facebook marketplace, a lot of times that's where farmers advertise nowadays, because that's the modern classified ad, right? So you'll find farmers there that will advertise. If you're going to do a big straw bale garden, you should really start looking for bales the fall before you're going to need them the next spring. I get mine delivered in September, right when they come off of the field. They bale them up and I get them delivered right away. That way they're less expensive. And I just put them right back where I'm going to have my garden the next spring. They get rained on and snowed on all winter. And the next spring I add that nitrogen and water, and that begins that rapid decomposition. But you can set them outside over the winter. That doesn't hurt anything at all. They'll be in great shape. So start there. If you can find a farmer, that's your best bet, is go direct to the farmer. But sometimes you gotta know a farmer who knows a farmer who knows a farmer. One of those kind of deals. They eventually find them. But you'll be surprised. I tell people, when you become a straw bale gardener, you start to see straw bales where you never saw them before. At Christmas time, you'll go driving by the church, and everybody's looking at the baby Jesus, and you're thinking, I wonder what the church is going to do with all those straw bales when that nativity scene is done. Right? So you start thinking about straw bale gardening. See people use them as insulation around their well house or around their trailer house. Sometimes they'll use them around the base. Or people use straw bales for all kinds of things that you wouldn't expect.
You start
fall decoration.
People call it. Then you're the crazy person because you're thinking all these things that you can use with straw bales and trying to figure out how to get a hold of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, now you have a book that's come out recently, and what is the name of that book? And can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, Straw Bale Gardens Complete. It's a second edition of the first writing. It's just got 3 more chapters or so in it. We show people how to build this really cool 6-week greenhouse, I call it. It's little 2 cattle panels, if anybody's familiar with that, 16 feet long, 50 inches wide. Farmers use them to build cattle fence. But we take these fence panels and we hump them up so that they kind of make an archway. And we put 2 of them together, and then we cover that with polyethylene film, and we put 6 straw bales inside of it. And as soon as you start the conditioning process, the bales will heat the greenhouse. And you can use that for seed starting, putting it outside about 6 weeks before your normal planting time is when you would start it. So then you have 6 weeks of greenhouse where you can get nice warm bottom heat on your seed trays sitting on top of these bales out in this little greenhouse. And it's just the most convenient thing. Then when the season comes along, you take your trays out off the top of the bales and you go plant your seed plugs, all your seed starts, in your straw bales out in the normal garden, and then those 6 bales that were in the greenhouse, you pull the cover off of this plastic cover off of this greenhouse, and you plant the bales, and then the tomatoes and cucumbers crawl up over top of these arched cattle panels, and it creates a cool little garden like a tunnel. We talk all in the book about how to build that. that's one of the things that's added. Of course, we cover all the basics of the straw bale gardening method, but I'm just talking about what's additional in this latest book.
Well, it seems like
other stuff in there.
It seems like with that greenhouse, it would be very inexpensive to construct something like that.
Yeah, under $100. Yeah, completely under $100. But it's about $78 if you really get down to the nuts and bolts to build the whole thing. So it's pretty inexpensive, and then you get free heat out of the bales. That's the good part. Another thing that's in that book that I've never written about before, but I did a whole bunch of research on, is growing mushrooms on purpose in straw bales, and that was really a fun project. We grew Phoenix oyster, Chinese oyster, black oyster, and one other oyster mushroom, and then wine caps. And you got to pasteurize the bale, and I show you how to do that, and then you inoculate it. And about 3 weeks later, you got three or 4 5-gallon pails of mushrooms off of each bale.
That's worth the emission right there, because a lot of people want to grow their own mushrooms. Not for psychedelic purposes, but for kitchen purposes.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to really like mushrooms if you do more than one bale, because you get a ton of mushrooms out of them.
Well, Joel, how can we find out more about the straw bale garden method, and where can we get the book at, and all your books?
Yeah, I got a couple of websites, but the best one for people to go to is called strawbalegardenclub.com. And it is a club, but it's a free club. So you can come and join the club for free. You can watch videos. We got over 100 HD filmed videos with professional sound, and it's really well done, and lots of blog entries, and there's a forum. If anybody ever has questions, they can ask questions on there, and I'll go and answer your questions for you. So it's a great opportunity for people to get to know Straw Bale Garden Club.
Well, Joel, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day and enlightening people who have never heard of this method before, and hopefully that they will venture into this. We've done it for many years and found wonderful success with this particular type of gardening method. So we thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Good luck with the gardening season this year, all right?
Absolutely, you too. And when we come back, it's all going to be about your garden questions and our garden answers.
For Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Chip Drop is a website. You can sign up for free wood chip mulch delivery right to your door for free. Chip Drop connects homeowners and gardeners with tree services who are trying to get rid of their wood chips. You can also sign up to get free logs and firewood. Go to chipdrop.com to learn more and sign up for a free account.
Oh, yeah. What you say? You say Nasala Kombucha. It'll put some glide in your stride and some pep in your step. Nasala Kombucha. Yeah.
Nasala Kombucha makes your body happy. Nasala Kombucha makes your body smile.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Do not go anywhere. There is more of the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show to come, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit PowerPlanter.com.
Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online. Conserve water, save time, reduce runoff, eco-friendly. Visit waterhoop.com.
Deer Defeat is an all-natural repellent to keep deer, rabbits, and groundhogs away from your precious plants. Deer Defeat protects your plants day and night, dries clear, and odorless. It will not clog your sprayer. Deer Defeat works for 30 days through rain, snow, and freeze. Safe, effective, and works on rabbits. Money-back guarantee. To purchase, go to deerdefeat.com and use code RADIO to save 10% on your order. Deer Defeat, it can't be beat.
Bluemel's has been one of Milwaukee's premier garden centers for over 60 years.
We have always been committed to putting our customers first. When there's demand, we stock it.
When there is an idea, we grow it.
When there's an opportunity, we build it.
And when there is a need, we deliver. Our family continues to offer you the industry's best garden and landscape products and services.
The same as my parents did when they first started the business back in 1955.
Visit Bluemel's.
Quality and service are the roots of our business.
Bluemel's, 4930 West Loomis Road, 414-282-4220. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show is brought to you by the following: Phylum Bio Products, Spartan Mosquito, Dr. Jim's, Nasala Kabucha, MI Greenhouse LLC, Green Gobbler, Water Hoop, Seed Savers Exchange. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit PowerPlanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. It's your time for your questions, as many as we can get through. You got a question, you can submit it to us a couple of different ways. Via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can also give us a call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW. We're going to go up to South Dakota, where we had a phone call come in, listening to us on 570 WNAX.
Yeah, this is Ed in Worthington, Minnesota. I got some questions about how to plant onion sets. I normally don't get very big onions. Thinking Walla Walla. Last year I did Brussels sprouts. They didn't get very big. I'm not sure what I went wrong there. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things here with the onions, Holly. He was talking about the sets. You want to go with
You want to go with the starts, and the starts are basically the live plants. Sometimes they come in little seed packs, or sometimes they look like just a bunch of kind of like mini chives almost, or as you call them, pencils.
Yeah, bundle of pencils.
Bundle of pencils. Thank you. The sets are what you want, and not or you want the starts, not the sets, because onions are a biannual, so their second year they want to reproduce or put out their seed. So a lot of times when you buy those little sets, they think that by the time you plant them that it's their second year, so they want to put out a bulb, and you don't get as big of an onion.
And with the Brussels sprouts, whenever you begin to see the sprouts develop around the leaf, when you start seeing them pierce out of the stem, chop the top 6 inches off of your plant, and that will put the plant in a stress level type of thing where it will stop growing vertically and start developing the sprouts, and you'll have very large sprouts, the kind like you see in the store. We've done that a number of years, and there's a lot of videos on our website on the proper ways to go about doing that by just searching Brussels sprouts on the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com website. Just hack the top off, and you'll be amazed at how quickly the sprouts begin to develop.
Okay, now it's lightning round question.
Okay. All right, here we go.
We have a slope in our little backyard where I want to improve it for gardening. My husband says we need to till it up. The previous owner had planted hostas and wintergreen ground cover. The ground cover is a problem. A neighbor gave me ground up leaves and grass clippings to start a compost pile. It's not enough. It's about 40 inches by 20 inches.
40 foot.
Oh, 40 foot by 20 feet. It's a 30-degree angle. So it's quite a bit of a slope.
Okay, so 30-degree angle for people who are in motorsports, that is the same 30 to 33 degrees. That's the same banking as Bristol, Talladega, and Daytona. So you're looking at a very steep slope on the backside of this house. We would not recommend tilling up the entire slope. The reason being, you're going to have a tremendous amount of erosion occur whenever it rains. So the next best situation which can be accomplished here is if you're going to plant peppers or tomatoes, wherever that plant is going to go, just dig up a 6 inch by 6 inch or square foot area, plant that particular plant, and then move on to the next area. Leave as much soil intact, but loosen the soil around the plants in which you're going to specifically grow.
I agree. So James asks, what was the company you talked about for seed trays, and what is the coupon code?
The company is Rootmaker. From rootmaker.com, and you use coupon code TWVG to get 10% off your entire order. That's for grow trays, starting trays, propagation trays, as well as grow bags from 1 gallon up to 60 gallon, and raised beds of 2 foot by 4 foot and 4 foot by 4 foot. A lot of different things that you can utilize to grow a lot of produce in a small area.
Brandon from Philadelphia says he wants help, so he can help him out. He started some tomatoes perhaps too soon. He's already had to move them from 4-inch pots to 6-inch pots. The plants are getting too big and is 6 weeks from putting them in the ground. How can he slow them down a bit?
Usually we get the question, how can I get this thing to grow faster? Right. Now we've got the question, how do I slow this sucker down? Tomatoes are a heat-loving plant. So my suggestion would be to take that out, away from heat, away from bottom heat, away from it. Try to put it in a very chilled room or like a garage, but not freezing. I mean, if you're 78 degrees inside and your garage is 55, 60 degrees, that will slow them down. Be sure you have a grow light, but you can slow them down in that direction by making it colder. Because early in the spring, we put these things out and they look like they're just stunted for a long time until the soil warms up to a certain degree, and then they kind of jump overnight and grow really big. So to slow them down, put them in a colder environment, but don't freeze them, but keep enough light on them so they can at least still maintain their health. Well, we are out of time. We thank you for yours. Miss any portion of this show or want to revisit it in its entirety, you can do that by going to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and clicking on the Radio Season 4 tab at the top of the page. Or, again, we can make it easy for you. Just send us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com and say, hey, send me the link to show 6, and we will do that. You can check out past shows on our website as well, and our videos. Tell your garden friends that this program is on your radio and podcast, because this is how people find out about us and the word spreads. Join us next week on the show when we'll be talking about vegetables you can grow in partial shade. There's about 60. We're not going to get through all 60 of them, but we'll knock out a good chunk of those, as well as what you should know before you go to your garden center or big box store and purchase plants there. And our guest will be author Matt Mattis talking about vegetable gardening. We will also answer all the garden questions we can fit in for the hour. Well, until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.